Hey, it's Drybear. If you've been playing the First Descendant for more than a couple minutes, the biggest thing on your mind is how to grind for what you're looking for and the most optimal way to do it. So in today's video, I'm going through all the best methods to farm in the First Descendant, no matter what item or material or character you're looking for, as well as methods and locations. Now, quickly before we go into the items themselves, let's make sure you're optimized for the build, and I think it is worth investing in a Descendant or weapon or both to maximize your farming output, because in a looter shooter, farming is everything. And hands down, the best farming Descendant in the entire game is Bunny, and she actually is free as part of the early part of the story. You just focus on using her zap ability, maximize her MP recovery, maximize her skill range, and keep it on cooldown so it's always active, and you just run around killing everything. She's insanely useful, and investing more into getting her higher and more effective is going to give you a lot more range and viability in these speed farming sessions. But if you really want to speed farm outside of Bunny, there's 3 or 4 other Descendants that are pretty decent at it. Lepic's one of them. He has some good grouping and AoE mobbing. SCMO is also quite good at this for just AoE cleave farming. Ajax with a red module to increase his big AoE explosion and give it multiple charges, plus his tankiness means you can kind of AFK and mindlessly farm. And I want to give a special mention to Kyle as well, because he has high mobility, good AoE cleave, and very, very reliable farming methods as well. And there's 3 or 4 ultimate weapons that are really great for farming. The first one you get for free is the Thunder Cage. This one comes as part of the story as well. And what's great about the Thunder Cage is that when it kills an enemy, it will explode with an electric shockwave. If you get high proficiency and good mods into a Thunder Cage, it can actually make you a very efficient farmer outside of your Descendant abilities, which is going to make you very rich in the long run. Another great option is Greg's Reversed Fate, which can drop meteors from the sky for more AoE farming. The King's Guard Lance drops a Zeus shield that you can shoot for pulsing AoE as well, which makes a big difference in cleaving it down adds. And if you have poison mods, some kind of poison procs, or you're playing the Descendant Freyna, you want to pick up Fallen Hope, which has big explosions if you're targeting someone that is already poisoned. Next, let's talk about leveling, because this is also another big thing for a lot of people. Not only are you going to be re-leveling your Descendant every time you do a Forma on them and reset their level, you also have to level new Descendants, and you'll want to be increasing your mastery level to give yourself even more power. And right now, the number one way to level, if that's all you're focusing on doing, is going to be these special operations. If you go to the special operations terminal here on the east side of Albion and you open this up, the defense missions are some of the best ways to do this because there are a lot of stand in place. If you're anywhere from level 1 to 20 on a Descendant, the best one to do is in Kingston. This is the first zone that you get. Activating this and doing the defense mission means you don't have to go anywhere, you don't have to do anything. It's one of the easiest farms in the game, but there's also some other options here. You can do the defense mission in the Echo Swamp, and if you're willing to run around, you can also do the Sterile Land block Kuiper mining, and this one can have some good drops as well. Generally for these, since they're multi-stage, like you have to go through several stages through here, most people, if they're leveling, usually just do the first or up to the second stage, as it gets too hard and inefficient after that. So you go up to the second stage, leave, and reset, but there are some things that come from the final stages that can be quite useful if you're willing to push forward. Next, let's talk about Kuiper and Gold, the materials and the resources that you need to upgrade and research items and your Descendants, as well as upgrade your modules so you can actually have the most power possible out of your character. And especially for the class-based modules, you're going to need a ton of gold and Kuiper to get that really off the ground. Now, when it comes to gold and Kuiper farming, your main focus is a high density of mobs in a small area that you can easily use all of these AoE options that we've talked about to clean them out nicely. And there's 3 locations that are going to be extremely optimal that I'm going to recommend for you. The first one, which is probably the third on the list, just because it is not as fast, it has great density, but not quite as fast as the other 2 on the list, is going to be Fortress Outskirts, and this is inside of the zone of White Knight Gulch in the top right corner here under Shipment Base. Go to the Shipment Base and come over to Fortress Outskirts. But what's great about this mission specifically is you can repeat it as many times as you want. You can instantly reset it, and up here are 4 capture points that you want to capture in order to clear. However, when you activate any one of these capture points, they will continually spawn mobs, and you can actually go and activate all 4 during the mission and have them constantly feeding mobs to the point where this whole courtyard is full of mobs at all times. Clean them out, reset the mission, do it again. The next one is in Sterile Land, and right now is incredibly popular, and that is going to be inside of Sterile Land on the bottom left. Inside of Rockfall, you go to the anticipated ambush Point. And this one may just be loaded out, which can be a good thing, but inside of Sterile Land, you want to come get this. This one is a 30 to 60 second mission. You can reset it as many times as you want. It'll spawn a bunch of mobs and then spawn an elite in the middle. And that's important because they just patched it so that the elites outside of these missions can start dropping really crucial materials. So what you do is you run a bunny or a very strong AoE build, run around clearing everything. You can have this mission done in literally 45 seconds, have some run down here and reset it and clear it all again. This is a great place to farm gold and Kuiper. However, based on what day it is of the week, it can also be an excellent spot for farming whatever it is that drops that day. Most of the time, this one is going to be dropping your reactors, but depending on what day, this changes based on acquisition, but it can drop really high quality, especially on hard mode, reactors that you can use to farm and get extra details out of that, plus tons of gold and Kuiper. Depending on your build overall, whether you're running Bunny or any of the Descendants or weapons that I mentioned, you can get anywhere from 300 to 500k Kuiper and gold per hour just sitting here on this short mission. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to the rotational rewards, if you press M and open your map and then go to difficulty level rewards by pressing F, you'll see a schedule for these depending on what it is that you're looking for. So if you go to this rotation here, you can actually see based on the area what it's currently dropping the most of based on what it needs. And you'll see that it has a time remaining until next reward rotation. Sometimes these rotate daily. Most of the time they rotate weekly and they'll have different rewards. Right now it's reactors, and actually just looking at the schedule, you can see it's most of the time reactors, but sometimes you might be getting something else like a memory drop or a sensor drop. Maybe there's something that you're looking for based on that, and then the elements and the specific things that come out of it will rotate as well. So when you're looking at that, just make sure you pay attention to what you're after. Right now is a great time to farm reactors from these individual events. And if you're wondering, by the way, what Bunny is capable, you can see the range of this person, how far their zap actually is. You can make it cover almost the entire mission area if you have fully maxed out modules and give you incredible, like look at the distance of that. That's like a close to maxed out Bunny or fully upgraded Bunny that can help you clear and speed farm very easily. And the other great farming spot right now is going to be inside of Echo Swamp. If you come down here to the abandoned zone in the bottom right, you want to come up to Battlefield Mission Abandoned Refinery Unit. This one is very similar to the last one we talked about inside the Sterile Land. You pop this up, you run a route going over this hill, down into a cave, and you fight mobs at the end. But this one and the last one both have an elite mob or more in it, which means they're going to be dropping the new loot that used to come out of just vaults before, which is super useful. Next is code analyzers and code breakers. These are the consumable items that you use to break into the encrypted vaults all over all of the maps, and this gives you the special vault material. Keep in mind that they just launched a hotfix that allows the elite mobs in the infiltration mission and the open world missions to drop the vault materials, which means we're not required to do vaults, but they are still incredibly efficient, and you will be getting these analyzers and breakers and building off of that. Now, where they go is up to you. The kind of loot that you get from it is also important based on the region and the difficulty that they'll go. They'll say on the analyzer, there's code analyzers, precision code analyzers, and there are ultra precision code analyzers, and it'll depend just on the difficulty and the area that you're going into. These just drop from pretty much everything that is relevant in the game, and it's actually quite hard to target farm these. In fact, if you're just doing gold and Kuiper farms, you'll regularly get these to drop all the time, and so I don't really recommend anyone try to target farm specifically analyzers and breakers, but try to do an efficient farm where you're killing lots of mobs that have the chance to drop these, and you'll start piling these up. Now, when it comes to encrypted vaults, it's kind of a smorgasbord when you first get into finding these things. If you didn't know what these are, this is where you spend the code breakers and the analyzers to unlock and get the mini game there. And if you didn't know, just really quickly, if you press tab to proc your Asive on PC or whatever it is on console, if you're facing away from a vault but there's one nearby, you'll get this badoop sound. If you're aiming at one and it's nearby, you'll get this high-pitched kind of sonar sound, and that will just allow you to, look towards the target and work your ways towards it. However, once you get better at finding the vaults, these are all in relatively fixed locations. They'll be random all over the map, but they're kind of in the same area every single time, and you can reload the map and do it over and over again. So once you get used to it, what some people will do is they'll memorize a zone and they'll just go through the route, finding all of these and getting those done. Now, they did make it so the vault materials come out of the elite mobs in infiltration and open world missions right now, now, which is a huge help. However, if you need help with these in order to get these done, keep in mind that the Descendant Enzo, if you have him active and you have him owned, if he's active when you do a vault, it'll make the mini game of doing the vault easier. And there's also Enzo specific things that come out of vaults as well. So if you have the time, farm up an Enzo and use it for vault farming. And lastly, let's talk Void Shards so that you can properly farm Void Reactors. So if you go to a Void Reactor, these fusion reactors, they have a resource that's required called Void Shards in order for you to activate the reactor. And then once you complete the reactor, it will drop a chest that you can use an amorphous material in order to get some loot out of that. This is a very common thing that you need for specific characters. You'll need amorphous materials that come out of, like, they'll drop somewhere else. You'll take them to a Void Reactor and open them there. However, one thing that stops a lot of people from farming is going to be these Void Reactors needing Void Shards. You can see that this Void Reactor here, this Void Fusion Reactor, requires 39 monomer Void Shards and 6 polymer Void Shards. So these are consumable items that you'll pick up from doing the events in the Void Fragments. You'll pick up these materials and then you'll use them to open Void Reactors. However, one thing that not a lot of people know is that inside of these Void Reactors, there's actually not an even distribution on what drops where. Most of the Void Fragments that you do will drop like this. It's like 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 of all of the Void Shards. However, if there's a reactor you're looking at specifically, like for example this one, which requires 39 monomer Void Shards, some of these Void Fragments have very wide distributions on what shards they drop. For example, inside of Agna Desert here in the top side of the mining site, you can go up to the Void Fragment here, and this one you can see drops 14 monomer Void Shards, 1 polymer, and none of the other 2. So if you're doing a Void Reactor that needs a lot of monomer Void Shards, but not much of the others, you can quickly farm this Void Fragment specifically over and over. And then in this case, it's 3 runs to get the monomer Void Shards you need. Whereas if you're running a different Void Fragment, you might need way more runs in order to get that done. So they're not all made equal. Now, the trick to these Void Fragments is they are elemental based, which means that depending on the element that it's displaying, you might need a different character to actually activate it. So the way these work is based on the element that they're showing, you have to hit it with an ability that has that element, which means that if you don't have a full list of each element for your Descendants, it's going to be hard to do this unless you find someone that comes by. Bunny can definitely trigger it. So she'll trigger it, she'll start the event, and then I can join in on top of that, which is nice. But if I don't have an electric, I can't do that as well. Now, non-attribute is easy to pick up. You can get Ajax or you can get Kyle. You can get the chill element from Viessa. You can get the toxin element from Freyna. You can get the fire element from characters like Blair or Lepic. And once you have a full list of those, you can farm whichever of the Void Fragments that you want. The best farm for monomer Void Shards is going to be this Void Fragment in the mining site inside of Agna Desert, located here. It gives 14 monomer Void Shards per run. This one requires an electric element ability in order to activate. The best shot for the Void Shards polymer Void Shards is going to be in White Knight Gulch in the bottom right inside the observatory zone. This one gives 13 polymer Void Shards per run. The best spot for organic Void Shards, which gives 14 per drop, is inside of Echo Swamp at the very bottom of Muskeg Swamp, and this one requires a fire element to activate. And the best spot for inorganic Void Shards is in Echo Swamp as well, but this time in Derelict Covert, which is in the bottom side here, and this one requires a toxic element in order to activate. So it is a good investment to get a non-attribute, a fire, a toxic, an electric, and a chill in order to do the best farms, ultimately long-term, and you get all of those characters for free. Freyna is a very easy character to farm. Bunny is almost instantaneous. If you picked up Viessa or Lepic, you'll get fire or chill, or if you picked up Ajax, you'll have non-attribute. Then you just need to farm one of the others, and that's probably a good starting point for your account to try and get those elements available so you can farm the best and most efficient ways to get these Void Shards to open Void Reactors. And I'll leave you with a hot tip that I don't see enough people using, and that is if you're in-game and you open the world map by pressing G on PC, if you go over to Access Info tab here, this will give you info on anything that drops in the game, and you can also specifically target farm and track things a lot easier than running all the way back to Anais in Albion and tracking it that way. So if there's a specific weapon you're trying to farm, say you want to farm the Blue Beetle, you can see all of the items, all of the things that are required to do it, and you can also hit U while looking at it in order to track that specific item. So if you want to track Superfluid, you can hit U, it'll mark it, it'll show up on your list here, and then if you press you while you're on your main character screen. On the far left side of the screen, you'll see that it has now appeared and it shows you what you're trying to track based on that. This is a huge game changer, this access info area. Anything you're trying to farm with a specific module, if there's a specific material, some amorphous material, and also keep in mind that on the amorphous material, if you're wondering where you go to open it, you can press L on PC. It'll swap to which boss or which void reactor opens that amorphous material. So if you're like, okay, I have amorphous pattern 126, what do I kill to get that? Okay, I have to go do Molten Fortress in order to get this to open up, to get the loot that's inside of it. And that's what I got for you today. Hopefully this helps you speed farm and optimize your farming experience in the First Descendant. If there's other guides you'd like from me, let me know down below. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.